I'm Todd here from CNN Student News. Today we will be talking about the Israel and Palestine activity and the events in which it took place. First up is Annie discussing the Balfour Declaration.
Thanks, Gabby. Now, earlier this morning, the British government declared in the Balfour Declaration that they supported the establishment of a homeland for Jews in Palestine. This is an attempt for the British to gain the support of the European Jews. Jews have begun to migrate to Palestine and have started building factories, towns, and farming communities. However, the newcomers are not being happily welcomed by the Arabs who are currently residing in Palestine. Fighting has begun on both sides as groups establish their own military defenses.
Hello. If you were watching last, you saw that negotiations of peace between Israel and Egypt were being made. Well, earlier this morning, an agreement between Israel and Egypt has been met, which is the first ever peace treaty between Israel and its Arab neighbors. It was signed earlier today, September 17th, at 11:35 a.m. It is officially called Camp David Accords because it took place at Jimmy Carter's retreat, Camp David, in Maryland. Back to you.
The Wye River Accords are a lot like the Camp David Accords in which Crystal just shared about. They are the other place in the U.S. in which the Israeli and Palestinian met to negotiate.
Breaking news. Across the world, Jewish support groups are springing up all over the place. World War II has come to an end, and the Holocaust survivors, along with other Jews, have migrated to Palestine. The Palestine Mandate has divided into an Arab and Jewish state. War has broke out and disagreement has been formed between the Jews and Arabs. The Jews have accepted the plan, but the Arabs have rejected it. They feel all of Palestine should belong to them. This just in. Britain withdrew from Palestine, and the Jews have proclaimed themselves an independent state of Israel.
Abby Stapleton here, reporting on how Israel declares statehood. It is May 15th, 1948. Last night, at around midnight, Jewish settlers fulfilled their dream of declaring Israel a state. This idea to create a Jewish state surfaced when the Zionist movement was formed by Theodore Herzl in the late 1800s. In 1917, Foreign Minister Arthur Balfour of Great Britain endorsed the idea of a Jewish state in Palestine. The Holocaust was also a factor in the creation of this Jewish state, with the loss of 6 million European Jews, and Britain wanting to end its role in Palestine. In November of 1947, the United Nations General Assembly voted to create separate Jewish and Palestinian states in the area. Fighting between Jews and Palestinians broke out, and when Britain departed, a group called the Jewish People's Council declared Israeli statehood. Not too long after, President Harry Truman issued a statement recognizing Israel as a state, and on May 15, 1948, Israel came into existence. Unfortunately, several Arab-Israeli wars will break out in the near future. Back to you, Todd. Back to you.
Roll call. Shout out to Bartlett High School in Anchorage, Alaska, home of the Bears, and a shout out to the Mangyongdae High School in Pyongyang, North Korea.
Now with breaking news in Palestine. Palestinians have begun to resist Israel with uprisings, otherwise known as intifadas. Palestinians are stoning and firing on Israeli troops. Many civilians are being killed by suicide bombers who are blowing up buses, stores, and clubs in Israel. Israel is responding by raiding Palestinian towns and targeting terrorist leaders in Palestine.
Oh, me. Well, hello. Today, the fighting between Arabs and Israel has ceased. It lasted 6 days from June 5th to June 10th, in which the Israelis have won the war. The Israelis have gained control of the Gaza Strip, West Bank, Sinai Peninsula, and Golan Heights. Back to you.
Here we are outside the building where the United Nations General Assembly has passed a resolution that calls for Palestine to be divided between the Arabs and the Jews. This is to allow the formation of the Jewish state of Israel. It will be divided into 3 Jewish sections, 4 Arab sections, and Jerusalem that will be an internationally administered city. The Assembly voted 33-13 in favor of the partition.
Okay, today Yasser Arafat and Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin signed the Oslo Accords, which is an agreement brokered by Norway after months of secret negotiations between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, also known as PLO, in 1993. In the agreement, the PLO agreed to renounce terrorism and Israel withdraw their military and civil authorities from the Gaza Strip and West Bank.
Now we will be talking about the Yom Kippur War. Today, on October 25th, a ceasefire between Egypt and Israel was secured by the United Nations. After, Israel attacked on October 6th, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar, in hopes of regaining their land. However, even though Israel was away from a Day of Atonement, they fully mobilized their forces and retaliated with support from Jordan. Richard Nixon then sent emergency military aid to help lead it to the ceasefire. Dope, bruh! Yeah.
Over the last couple years, conflicts between the two neighboring countries of Lebanon and Israel have been building up. On June 6, Israel attacked Lebanon, starting the 1982 war. Israel claimed that they wanted to stop the raids. The Israeli army ventured into Beirut and laid siege to the city. Here we are at some of the grave sites. Our reports tell us that around 17,000 Lebanese civilians have died during this war. Our prayers go out to those who have lost a loved one. Back to you, Todd.
Thanks, Todd. Abby Stapleton here reporting on the 1972 Olympic Games, the Munich Massacre. Struggles among the Palestinians and Israeli over claims to land lead to the tragedy which was the Munich Massacre. The 1972 Olympics were held in Munich this summer. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, launched attacks on Israel and created chaos when they targeted athletes during the Games. 2 members of the Israeli team were killed and 9 others were taken hostage. The situation came to an end with a huge gunfight, killing 5 of the terrorists and all 9 hostages. On the upside, Rod Milburn brings a gold medal home for USA in the 100-meter dash. Thanks, Todd.
Camp David and Wye River Corps were supposed to let my people go, but no such thing is real. Wye River was a failure. Do you want to know why? Because there are so many holes and flaws in it like Swiss cheese. You might be getting fed up with these puns because I know they are cheesy, but be grateful. I'm Todd, signing off of CNN Student News. Thanks for watching.